and then we're going to share a video. I will open up my video to say hello to everybody. There we are. Hello. Don't mind that big trampoline there in the back. If you guys have been following the news at all, how many of you know anybody in Northern California where the fires are at? Does anybody know? We had to bring in the trampoline so that we could get some exercise. My little ones need exercise, but the weather has just been horrible. The air quality, we're just not able to go out at all. So if hopefully you don't know anybody who is suffering through these fires, but if you do, I hope you wish them the best, and just kind of hope everything gets put out quickly, because it is not fun. Okay. How many of you are on the course homepage? Yeah, just we're trying to hang in there. It's a little crazy. It's kind of hard to believe when it hits close to home. All right, so it looks like everyone's there. So let me just show you real quick. I'll go ahead and pull up my screen, just because I think it's important for you to see where you're going, where you're navigating. Let's go to, we're here on week 2. This is the photo retouching and restoration. So obviously you're gonna want to learn the learning objectives, the background, the tools for restoring, other techniques. But here's the prompt, and this is the part where you're going to be paying attention to, because you're going to download 2 of the photos. So you get to pick the 2. Now, and then you're going to adjust layers. We're going to talk about adjusting exposure, or maybe adjusting the color. We're going to use the spot healing tool. We're going to learn how to do that today, as well as the clone stamp tool. I don't want any cropping or distorting of the image in any way. I know some of these images are a little odd in the way that they're presented to you, I guess. So don't feel like you need to go do any adjusting as far as size or changing the image, or the, what should I say, just basically the composition. So no stretching, no skewing, no distorting of any kind. What we are going to do is kind of learn to edit in a non-destructive way. Can someone tell me what a destructive edit would be? What does that mean? Exactly. Working directly on the original image. Exactly, Amanda. Thank you. So if you were to take image 1 here and pull it into Photoshop and just start painting over it and making changes and adjusting the contrast and the saturation and using the spot healing tool and whatever other retouching tools, any change you make to the original is a destructive edit. So how do we get around that? Does anybody know? It's okay if you don't. This is an introduction to it. We're going to learn how to do some non-destructive editing. Exactly. You can copy the layer. There's also using layer masks. We'll get into a little bit of that. But for this assignment, you will be using other layers to do your editing on, so you don't ruin the original image. Because what if I were to say, oh, this looks great. Can you please take off that filter, that blur filter? It's a little too strong. I think your assignment looks great, but you've already gone in and edited a bunch of things, done multiple steps, and blurred the original, and now there's no way to go back. So with the layers, you're able to, you can delete layers, you can you hide layers. There's a lot of things you can do to go back and backtrack with your steps. So it's very important that we don't destroy or do the editing on the original layer. So I can't emphasize that enough. So let's get in the habit of creating new layers using layer masks, and today's tutorial is going to be all about that. So we're going to work on this assignment together. I want you to be able to do it with me. I think we learn the best when we're working side by side. So here is a little different. I don't know if you've taken this recently, but here's a new change to the submission requirements. You will need to save your original file as a PSD, as a Photoshop file. However, you need to screenshot your Photoshop workspace for your first image with all the layers visible, just so that I can see you've used multiple layers to achieve your editing, your final editing composition. And then you're going to go and save it as a JPEG with 100% quality. So the file should be named in the same way we've been naming it. And then you're going to save your second file as a PSD. So you'll have a high-res JPEG, you'll have your original PSD file, and you'll also have a low-res screenshot of your workspace. You'll do this for the second image, but you need to make sure your layers are visible. So basically, you're going to have 2 JPEGs, both screenshots, both JPEGs for your final submission. You're going to hold on to the Photoshop file. I don't need that. You just need to show me that you created those layers and that everything is good to go, okay? And plus, what this means for you is that it'll be a quick upload and a fast download for me, and everyone's happy when it just goes smoothly like that. Are there any questions as far as requirements here? We're gonna go through this in some depth, so don't worry about that part. But if there's any questions about the techniques of the assignment. If not, we'll go ahead and jump right into our lecture. So let's talk week 1. I know some students have had some questions or concerns about maybe their grading feedback, and I know one of you had mentioned that earlier. So here's the thing: if you have any questions at all about grading feedback, you're welcome to stay after class and we can talk about it. Briefly, I can't stay too long today, but tomorrow's the multi-session. So come on in and let's work together. We can go over some things. I can kind of explain a little bit better. When I'm doing quick grading, it's hard to kind of get in depth with the feedback. So if you're at all confused or it didn't make any sense at all, just come talk to me and we can go over it together. Chances are there could be a mistake made, so it's very, very likely when there's 32 students and lots of grading and assignments going on. So just want to make sure everything's good, but keep an eye on your grade. And if there's any concerns at all, bring it up to me, and I would be more than happy to go over it with you. If you received feedback, please make those changes, and I invite you to resubmit. We talked about that last week. You have one more chance to resubmit your assignment and get more points on it, and I think that's a great opportunity if you can take advantage of it. Also, we will be having our multi-session. So even though Thanksgiving is the next day, I just want to make sure that I'm available for you guys before the holiday, because on Thursday I will be unreachable, phone, email. I'm not even going to be in my office, and you shouldn't be working on school anyways on holiday. So we'll resume business as usual on Friday, and just have a great Thanksgiving. Do you guys have some fun plans? Oh, so Amanda's going to host. That's a lot of work. Are you? Yep, eat a lot of turkey and sleep, basically. So we don't want to be messing with this assignment over the holidays. So if you can come on Wednesday, please do so. And football, we can't forget the football. But yes, those of you who are hosting, good luck. That's a lot of work. I mean, I've hosted a few times in my in my life, and it's a lot of work because you got to cook and clean. But it is also fun having family and friends over to celebrate. So that's fun. Well, I'm glad nobody has to work. It's good news. All right. Any questions from week 1? Are we pretty good? Okay. All right, we went over the introductions yesterday, help and assistance. So if usually I'm not available for help on the weekends, that's why I have my multi-session in the class during the week. But if you need help on deadline day, go to the Student Success Center. They are open on Saturdays, and they're open late as well. They have late hours for those of you who get off work late. Just make sure that you're staying on top of the lecture videos, because we do go in depth on the assignments. There are more videos on the media page, lots of Adobe tutorials, but if you really need a little bit of hand-holding, or maybe it's just easier if someone explains it to you instead of watching a video, go to the Student Success Center. That's what they're there for. The tutors can help you. Our learning coach can also help you. So if you know that you're probably going to be struggling on an assignment, you might want to just reach out to the learning coach and see if she's available. She is designated for our class. However, any tutor can help. And of course, our learning coach is DJ, so she's there as well. Okay, so grading should already be posted. If you did not receive a grade or there was an error in your grade, please email me immediately or come see me tomorrow. Let me know just ASAP so I can get that all corrected for you. And then check the feedback for learning opportunities. And then you have the ability to resubmit. I highly encourage it. So take advantage of that. Late submissions and assignment resubmissions are due this Saturday. So if you want to resubmit week 1, it has to be in by this Saturday with week 2's work at the end of week 2. And then we talked a little bit about how to be successful for assignments, but I wanted to start talking about just getting a head start on the assignments. We have lectures pretty early on in the week on a Tuesday and then the multi-session on Wednesday. Even if you have barely had a chance to start the assignment come Wednesday, come to the multi-session anyways and just do your assignment in the multi-session. That gives you a designated time to start your assignment or to finish it or just to get some work done. And then I'm there in case you get stuck or need help. So it's kind of a win-win. But don't do the assignment in one day or in one sitting because that just gets overwhelming and it's sometimes impossible. These assignments are structured so that you have to do it. It gives you practice and it will take some time. So just kind of break things up, give yourself some time to digest the information and come up with those ideas. So today we are going to have we do have a pre-recorded session that you should have watched before you attended because we're not going to go too much into depth of the basics of what you're learning. We're going to be talking about tools, and I will assume you already know or are familiar with the toolbar before you come here. However, I will talk to you about specific tools and what they do. So today we're going to learn about the clone tool, the content aware tool, and the spot healing brush. And we're also going to learn how to do non-destructive edits on new layers and how to preserve our original file. So just be sure to read the information, the prompts, and follow the directions. This is the pre-recorded lecture to this class. Lots of retouching tool demos are available, additional stuff, and Carly's lecture is always very helpful. So just how to back up native files and black and white adjustments, lots of other things. It goes more into depth. So make sure you check out those pre-recorded lectures. And then in discussion 2, how's everyone doing? Are we feeling good? Getting our posts in, staying active in class? The prompt isn't too bad. I think that just kind of discussing the tools in Photoshop can be helpful. Are there any questions about the discussion? Perfect. So some of you will be submitting soon. Just remember the initial post is due by Wednesday by 11:59 Mountain Standard Time of week 2. But we are discussing appropriate techniques for creating and recreating raster images in Photoshop. Last week we talked about the difference between vector and raster, and now this week we are talking about the raster-based design and how it is made in Photoshop. And can it be a digital illustration or a wallpaper design, an advertisement, or a photo composite? These are things that we're going to be talking about. So based on your research on those tools, I want you to create or recreate an image and then talk about the techniques do you think the designer used and why. And so make sure to cite your work. We're going to be going a little bit more into depth on that. Participate, because there are no resubmissions for discussions. But let's talk about assignment 2. So if you would all get a Photoshop open, we're going to talk about our photo editing. So for week 2, I'm going to be demonstrating, or lecture 1 demonstrates all the tools that you're going to need to use. So I'm going to assume you know how to do that. More demos are coming, so I'll be demoing in this class. You can look at, but don't copy the benchmark examples. They're there to help you. And then look at all 4 images. Decide what problems there are before you choose. If you're looking at the cat, you'll notice the cat has one eye. It also is a very damaged photo. It looks like it's just kind of got some weathering on it. Some parts of it need to be retouched. With the children photo, the kids and the dog, it's very yellow, and we're going to need to take out we need to adjust the coloring on the photo. There's also some water spots that we need to correct, and there's a big rip on the photo that we're going to need to fix. And so we're going to go over some tips and tricks on how to do that as well. We're also, if you're looking at the man's photo, it's extremely yellow or orange, and we probably want to correct the color a little bit. That seems to be probably one thing that we'll need to do, maybe brighten the photo a little bit. But on the photos, it doesn't necessarily say what is wrong. It's pretty self-explanatory when you look at it. The girl, however, she has a lot of acne, and we're going to learn how to kind of smooth out her skin and give it kind of that glossy look. However, I wanted to point out that when we do any edits, we want to maintain the natural look as much as possible. If you kind of blur or make things a little too unrealistic, then it will start looking fake and not as clean or as professional. So we just want to make sure that we do subtle changes that improve the look of the picture. All right. So let's dive right into that. Let's see, just the most important thing that I wanted to emphasize is that you understand how the tools work so that you can use them again, not just to get this assignment done. So we're going to be repairing with healing tools and adjusting with adjustment layers and blending modes. So let's pull up Photoshop. I'll stop talking now. We will get into more of that later. Let's talk about, let's go into the girl's photo. Let's see, Harley before. So let's talk about her. All right. Does everyone have her picture up? You're welcome to follow along with me. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up when you've done that. Or a smiley face. Sorry, I guess they don't have emojis on here, huh? Before we begin, I just want to make sure everyone's with me. Thumbs up. Cool. All right. So here's the deal. Go ahead and delete these layers so we can start from scratch. Okay. So when you open this girl's photo, there's a few things that we notice. First of all, she has blemished skin, a little bit of acne. You can see her skin pores. That's not all too bad. We do want to preserve some of that. Her hair is a little wispy and just a few little black spots off to the side here. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean her up. And we're going to use some retouching tools called the I'm sorry, not the clone stamp. We're going to be using this Spot Healing Brush tool. Has anyone ever used the Spot Healing Brush tool? Okay. It's actually a really cool tool. For the longest time, I always used the clone tool, copying a piece of the background and trying to paste it somewhere. And that didn't always work. But for retouching a large area or for more control over the sampling area, you want to use the Spot Healing Brush tool. You can use the healing brush instead of, you can use the healing brush instead of the Spot Healing Brush. But there are some really neat ways to use it. So first things first, where is it? Okay, so you get your toolbar and you come down here and then it's right under, I don't know what icon's displaying, but you'll see the Spot Healing Brush tool and the Healing Brush tool. Do you guys see that? So if you grab the Spot Healing Brush tool, and what we're going to do before we make any changes, we've got our layer 0 or a background layer. Go ahead and unlock it if it shows that it's locked. And we're going to come down here and create a new layer. You can also right click on it and go duplicate layer so it'll make a copy. So we'll just do that. So layer copy. So if you saw that, you click on the original layer, right click, duplicate layer is what you're going to want. It will make a layer copy. And on this layer copy, what we're going to do is we're going to go in and make some adjustments with the Spot Healing Brush tool. So I'm going to show you here with the Spot Healing Brush tool selected. I'm going to kind of click once, kind of go in a circle. It's going to kind of remove all of these little imperfections. I'm just kind of clicking once or twice around the area that I want to heal, and it's grabbing information from surrounding areas like the color, the texture, and it's kind of putting it all into that one little space. It's kind of correcting, overriding the blemishes. See how neat that looks? Already she looks 100 times better. Now, if you do too much, it will start looking a little unnatural. So I'm just kind of going to go in here, kind of softly click around the hairs on her face. I want to kind of try to remove as much of these blemishes as I can using the spot healing brush because it will still maintain this natural look. I'm just going in, cleaning her up a little bit. Just like that. You can even get rid of some of the moles if you wanted to, or you can maintain them. It's all up to you. It's pretty amazing what you can remove on a picture. It kind of makes all those magazines or models on the magazines kind of, you know, look a little unrealistic because of everything you can take off and remove. You can make anything flawless in Photoshop, just about. So I'm even kind of clearing up some of the texture on her back a little bit. So how is the tool working for you? Are there any questions? See how I cleaned her up pretty good? I'm even going to go in here in her eyes and just kind of clear that up along her eyebrow line. So once you've done this, kind of clean her up a little bit, you can even go out here into the gray, just kind of grab larger chunks and try to smooth out her hair a little bit. Color around the area that you're trying to correct. You see that? It's actually a pretty neat tool when you start playing with it. I'm even going to go out here where there's little black spots because I want to correct that as well. And oop, okay. So that's good. I can even kind of go inside her hair and just kind of start coloring, making sure it's all black, get rid of the white streaks. Just like this. Okay. So she's all cleaned up, she's all touched up. So I've removed the imperfections off of her skin. So now the tool we're going to be using is, well, it's more of a blur. We're going to use an effect to give her a glossy skin. So let me close out of this so I can, there we go. It looks a little bit better on my Photoshop screen. Here we go. Okay. So now with the layer copy selected, I want you to right click, duplicate the layer one more time. All right, and then with this layer, we're going to hit Command I if you're on a Mac or Control I if you're on a PC. This will invert the photo. Now, I know it looks a little scary right now. It looks something you'd see in a horror film, but this is going to help us kind of texturize her skin, kind of make it, give it a glossy, professional, touched up look. So we're going to invert this. Under our blending mode, we're going to go to Vivid Light. So it changes it a little bit. Let me know when you're at this point, because there's a few steps we're going to need to take. And I don't want to lose anybody. So Command I will invert the picture, and then you go to the blending mode just above it and make sure it's selected Vivid Light. Then at the top of Photoshop, you're going to go to your filter drop-down menu, select Other, and go to high pass. Now for high pass, I would set it to about 24. This will give her very blurry, it'll look blurry. This is okay. This is what we want. It'll look a little strange at first, but it will help us when we move forward. So the way I did that was I inverted it and then I went to filter, other, and selected high pass. I changed the number, the radius, to about 24. And then I'm going to use a new layer mask, which is down here at the bottom of my layers panel. If you hover your mouse over, it will say new layer or add layer mask. And you'll notice that my layer mask is white. I want to invert that so that it is now black. And the way that I do that is just hit Command I, the same command, Command I or Control I, depending on if you're on a Mac or a PC. This also inverts the layer mask, and it allows me to paint over it with my paintbrush. So I'm now going to grab my paintbrush, and I'm going to set my opacity, I don't know, just a little under 100% so it's not such a hard flow. And then adjust the flow to about, I don't know, I'm in the 80s, so just a little less than 100%. I'm going to make the size of my paintbrush small, and then I'm going to make sure I'm painting with white, because if I paint with white over my layer mask, making sure my layer mask is selected, then this will now allow me to kind of paint over her skin. Now, as I'm painting, I'm noticing it's very, very strong, and it's starting to take away the pores of her skin, and I don't want to eliminate the pores. So what I'm going to do is bring down the opacity a little bit to even 48. This still gives me a smooth look, but it's allowing me to kind of maintain her pores a little bit, and we want to keep it as natural as possible. So I'm just going to go over, whoops, parts of her, kind of cleaning up her skin. Now I'm going to bring down the size a little bit. I'm just going to touch up some certain areas there. If you need to bring down the opacity, go ahead and do it. And I'm only blurring just the edges of her skin, like certain parts. Let me bring that down a little bit. I'm not going crazy with it. I don't want her to look too porcelain, but I do want to make sure that her skin is smoothed. And if it's, you can always increase the opacity if you want more of a flow. All right, so now that is how we edit this girl. Any questions? Did I lose you guys on any of the steps? Okay. So pretty simple. And now that you look at her, she actually looks nice and smoothed out. So that's exactly what we want. Okay. All right. So now that she is all smoothed out, I don't want the edges. I just want the inside. There we go. I can do that to her hair as well. Kind of smooth out her hair. Without making her too unnatural. I'm actually going to back up because that didn't look as good. There we go. All right, so let's see if you want to share your screen. I'd like to give you a minute or two and kind of play around with that spot healing brush on your layer copy. And then on the second layer, I want you to try to practice those steps. So what I'll do is I'll copy it into this chat box for you so that you have the steps. And then you can try it. Okay, let's see if it'll let me do it. Nope, it won't let me do it. Let's see. There we go. Did you guys get it? It says it's sending, but it didn't. I guess I can't send too much at one time. So it'll come in steps. Here we go. So what I'm doing is I'm just copying some of these steps in here for you if you need to follow along. You can even copy and save them at a later time if that's easier. All right, do you guys have the steps? Screenshot it, save it, copy it. And that is for the girl's edit. So here we need to remove the blemishes, smooth out her skin, smooth out her hair a little bit. Now let's talk about the clone tool for a little bit. Now the clone tool takes a copy of the surrounding area, about the surrounding area's mathematical information, and it will copy it as you tell it where to paste it. So we're going to grab our clone tool, and I'm going to just grab out here in this gray area, and I'm going to adjust my opacity so it's not too heavy, and I'm just going to kind of paint. Now with the clone tool, it's going to grab a darker area than what I'm used to. Oop, I'm going to make sure I'm on the right. I'm going to go to layer, copy. And I'm just going to kind of paint in here. So you can see if you're not totally accurate and where you grab, especially with a gradient, see that dark gray? It's going to start paintings over it. So maybe what I want to do is go into the clone step and go the other way. So with the dark hair, just kind of come in this way. I'm going to make the opacity 100%. Start coming in here to kind of smooth out her hair. Kind of get rid of those hard edges. I still want to look like she has some wispy hair, so I'm not going to completely correct that, but I am going to get rid of the strays. Okay, and then when I zoom out, it looks a little bit more controlled. So what I'm doing to use the clone stamp tool is I hold the Alt or Option button down, copying an area, and then I click my mouse in the area I want it to paste. Now that little X or that cross sign that you see is telling me where it's pulling from. It's telling me where the copy is pulling from. So pay attention to where that cross shows up, because if it starts going out here to the edge, you know it's going to start copying the edge of the page or an area that you don't want copied. Now right now the clone stamp is probably the most practical tool for this because this is a gradient background. It's not a solid color, so it's going to be hard to match and make it look natural. So I'm just going to leave that part alone. But the skin definitely is what we want to touch up. Now, some other tricks you can do. Grab your selection tools and you can kind of trace along the eye. Oop. I'm going to use my, let's try my quick selection tool right here. Hold down the Alt or Option button on your keyboard to subtract an area selection. If you went over too much or it's grabbing the wrong area, you want to correct it. I'm just trying to get as much of this eyeball as possible, and I just want the colored area. There we go. And again, you can adjust your brush size up here if you want to get a little bit more accurate. And then I'm going to go ahead and select the other eye, hold down Alt Option to kind of subtract the area. I'm just trying to grab the part that has color. There we go. So now that the color has been copied, or I'm sorry, not copied, but highlighted, now I can go in and go to image adjustments. I can adjust the brightness or the contrast. So I can add some brightness. I can also add some contrast, so give her a little bit darker brown eyes. Or if you wanted to give her a different color altogether, you could go to image, adjustments, color balance, and then you can adjust if you wanted her to have blue eyes, you could kind of give her some blue eyes that way. And then Command D or Control D will deselect. So now you've given her some blue eyes, you've adjusted her skin, that's another way. You can also highlight lips. This is considered giving her some makeup. So if we wanted to touch her up a little bit. Now notice all these changes are being done on a different layer, not my original layer, which is very important to point out because I want you to get in the habit of making any changes on a different layer. I'm going to try to trace her lips as best I can. All right. So with that selected, I'll go to image. Same thing, brightness or contrast. You can, brighten them up a little bit. You can darken them. You can also add contrast so they're a little bit more pink. You can also go to color, so image adjustments, and then go to the color balance and add, if you want a little bit more red, hit OK. And then deselect, Command D will deselect, and now you can kind of clean up a little bit. So you can go to the spot healing brush tool and kind of, whoops, not the spot healing. Let's try the clone tool, and I will make that much smaller. I'll just kind of go in there and kind of clean up the hard edges. All right, and then I'll zoom out. So she already looks like she's received a makeover. I mean, she's gotten some lipstick here, changed eyes, smooth skin, hair done. Okay, so there's a question. Are you using a mouse or a trackpad as you do yours? On the video, she mentioned it's harder on a trackpad. Absolutely harder on a trackpad. Good question. Invest in a mouse. You can get one for $5 to $10 at Walmart. You can get one really cheap. You need a mouse to be accurate in graphic design, and I don't think you can get very far without one. So yeah, plus it's very frustrating. I mean, if I just don't want it to affect your perspective on graphic design because it's very hard to be accurate. Very, very hard. Mac mouse is 20. You could probably find one used somewhere. You don't have to have a Mac mouse. You can use a PC. There's cheap ones you can use. So yes, definitely invest in a mouse. You can get them for fairly inexpensive. Yeah, and I'll be honest, I found a little cheap, I don't know, $5 one online somewhere, and it was a PC mouse. It didn't have to go, I didn't need a PC mouse for my Mac. I just grabbed a cheap one, and my kids use the cheap one. I use my nice one when I teach, but I just plug it in. So it doesn't have to be a Mac mouse if you have a Mac. So see what you can find, even buy used, go to a thrift store, whatever you need to do to find a mouse, but definitely grab one, and it will make your life so much easier. Go faster for sure. Great question. Any other questions about how we edited this girl, how we kind of improved her picture a little bit? So the thing with the cloning and the healing brush is that when you use the clone stamp or the healing brush tool, you can sample sources in the current document or any open document in Photoshop. So when you're cloning or you're using the healing brush tool, what it's doing is it's just pulling it's kind of sampling other areas around it. So it makes it very helpful. Retouching with the healing brush tool. The healing brush tool lets you correct imperfections, which is what we did with this girl, causing them to disappear into the surrounding image, which is kind of a really neat tool to watch. Like the cloning tools, you use this healing brush tool to paint the sampled pixels from an image or a pattern. But the healing brush tool also matches the texture and the lighting and the transparency and even the shading of the sampled pixels to the pixels being healed. So as a result, the repaired pixels blend seamlessly into the rest of the image, and it really gives it a nice clean look. Now, the healing brush tool can be applied to video, animation frames, so it's used quite often to clean up and heal and restore around the area. You don't have to use it just for skin. In the photo with the children or even with the cat, you can use the healing brush tool as well. Yes, yes, definitely. So in this video, we don't go over necessarily the tools. We're going over how to use them. So we just kind of showed you some ways to retouch this girl. Let's go to another picture. Let's look at this guy here. He's kind of this one's probably the easiest one out of them all because there's not a whole lot to do with him. But if what's the first thing you notice? What's something that might need to be corrected right off the bat? Yellow, it's way too yellow. Yeah, jaundice even, yeah. So what we wanna do is override the coloring. So if you go up top here to image, click on adjustments, and then you can adjust the color balance right here. And just by kind of, clicking on the hue, you can add more red, you can add blue, greens, things like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of go in here and use the saturation. I'm going to take the saturation. I'm not going to completely take it out because I don't want him to go black and white, but I am going to kind of correct that a little bit. With the hue though, you just kind of want to bring it down a little bit so it's not so yellow. Hit OK. Let's see. You can also, we'll hit OK. I'm going to go to image and adjustments. Let's go to the color balance. This is the one you want because you can remove some of that yellow by putting that slider over into the blue. But before we do anything, and this is the one thing I usually forget, unlock the layer and duplicate the layer so that you have a copy and you make those changes on that copy, okay? So if I'm going to go into adjustments, I'm going to go to color balance and I'm going to take out the yellow. And I'm going to take out some of the red. So I'm basically taking out the warmer colors. And you can even take out shadows or highlights. So by clicking on highlights and bringing this cursor kind of into the blue, it's starting to correct the color even more. You can take out shadows. I'm again adjusting the yellow, trying to take the yellow out as much as possible. I can also adjust shadows, which will allow me to kind of take out as much yellow as possible. There, so there's already a stark difference, right? With the coloring. And I can even zoom in closer by hitting Command plus on your keyboard if you're on a Mac, or Control plus if you're on a PC. Will help you zoom in. And I can even use the spot healing brush tool by clicking on the new layer. I can kind of take out some of his freckles, clean up his skin a little bit. I can even kind of correct some of his smile lines. Not too many of them though. Because that's the one thing I always look at when I look at my pictures is those smile lines. So you kind of want to go in and See if you can correct him. There we go. He's already looking 100% better, so we'll just call that good. All right. So I've taken off his smile lines, some of his freckles, kind of patch him up a little bit. All right, he looks pretty debonair. Now we'll go to image mode and we can adjust the brightness and the contrast. So this will also help brighten the photo, not too much. We don't want to go crazy. And then the contrast will kind of darken him a little bit. Brightness will help us get rid of that yellow and brighten up. So look at the before and after. Isn't that crazy? He looks much younger. We've taken off years. And we've brightened up the photo and added some contrast. So different, right? Just by a few adjustments. So the two things that I adjusted under the mode, image mode, were the adjustments was the brightness and contrast, but also the color balance. So you can take out yellows and blues and reds. You can make a picture warmer by adding warmer colors in, or you can make it cooler by adding the cold colors in. So just by adjusting the slider, adjusting the highlights and the shadows, and just playing with the color balance, you can kind of find a good middle ground. So it's pretty cool how different you can make this picture look. And there's a lot more we could do with this if we wanted to, but I like this. And so this is probably all you need to do is adjust the coloring, the color balance, and maybe brighten up the picture a bit. So any questions with this one? You don't have to. It does need to be able to, you do need to demonstrate that you made some changes though. So you don't have to. If you like those freckles, you can keep them. But what he desperately needs is a lot cooler colors added into the color balance, and he also needs to be brightened, more contrast. Maybe remove some imperfections like his smile lines. So, yep, it's your edits to make for sure. All right. So basically the spot healing brush tool that took away those freckles, it basically quickly removes blemishes and other imperfections in your photo. So the spot healing brush works very similarly to the healing brush. It just paints with sampled pixels from the image or maybe a pattern, and it matches the texture and the lighting, transparency, and shading of the sampled pixels to the pixels that are being healed. So unlike the healing brush, the spot healing brush doesn't require you to specify a sample spot like the clone tool does. The spot healing brush automatically samples from around the retouched area. So that's why I can click and drag and I can get rid of smile lines like this. So it's really nice. It's a lot easier to use. So all you have to do is make sure you select it, and it looks like a Band-Aid, so it's easy to locate. So the spot healing brush tool will become your best friend. So I would definitely use that. So just note that for retouching a large area or for more control over the source sampling, you can use the healing brush instead of the spot healing brush. But I really like the spot healing brush for facial imperfections, wispy hairs. You can kind of go in and kind of clean up his, the side of his hair a little bit. Like this. You can kind of just see. It's pretty cool. So just kind of play around with it. You can give him an eyebrow, adjust his eyebrows a little bit. All right, so that is that guy. Yes, you did notice they get worse. We're doing the easy ones right now. Yes, so there are lots of flaws on the photos, holes, crinkles. You're not jumping ahead. We're going to be getting to those as well. The spot healing brush tool can fix some of them. not all. You're going to need to use lots of different tools to get your desired effect. So let's look at this cat for instance. Looks like it's got some crinkles. It's an old photo. You could go in with the healing brush tool and kind of try to color over it, but what it's going to do is just grab sampling from around it. So it's not necessarily going to do the right job. Spot healing will work for spots, but it's not going to work for large areas. Now you can take the healing brush tool, select it, and you can kind of click on an area and it will try to clean it up as best you can. So if I were to hold down my Alt Option button, I like this top right area because it's somewhat clean, and I can try to copy from it. Like that, but we don't want to do any changes on this without doing a new layer. So we're going to back up. I'm going to unlock this background layer, right click, duplicate layer. So we're going to make a layer copy. And then this is where we're going to grab our large section. So I'm going to hold down the Alt Option button using my healing brush tool. And I'm going to just kind of color in the areas, kind of clicking every now and then to see if it's grabbing the right area. If it doesn't, though, you can always hit Command D and undo it. And then what you could use is the clone stamp tool that works very similarly to the healing brush tool. It operates similarly. And you can increase the brush size. I would use a soft round brush and just kind of hold down the Alt Option button in an area that you want to copy, and then kind of watch that plus sign because it's showing you where it's copying from. You can kind of adjust imperfections that way. So now I'm going to grab a piece from up here because I'm getting too close to the edge. I'm going to kind of bring it down just like that. I'm going to go in and around. Eventually you're going to want to eliminate the spots as best you can, but just do your best at first. It's going to be. So I'm just grabbing different areas, holding down the Alt Option button. I'm watching that plus sign because as it starts getting close to the edge, I know I need to go grab a new area and start painting with that. Like that. Very good. All right, and then let's see, I'll even grab down here and try to go upwards. If it starts copying a weird place, then you need to kind of take a step back, grab a different area, and just start going that way. What's nice about the clone stamp tool is that you can use it to copy patterns or large chunks of things. So for instance, I could take my, let's do magic wand. And I'm going to take this portion here and I can just bring it down like this. Kind of cover that portion. I keep working my way down. So I'm going to cover this big piece. You can do that, or you can do content aware, where if you select an area like this, and then you go to your content aware, which is this tool right here. So basically you'll select an area that you want to copy, and then you'll drag it down, and you can hit enter if you'd like to keep it. You can drag it down. You can kind of expand it. You can make it bigger. So this is kind of how I would, treat it. And then when you have it placed and everything, you can go in with the clone stamp tool and start adjusting just in very small waves. So it's going to take some tweaking. I recommend getting very close and grabbing a an area. You can kind of go over it. My goal here is to try to make it look like there's not very many creases in this curtain as best I can. The way I'm going to do that is just kind of go back and forth and try to stay on a very linear line here. So it won't look perfect because it is an old photo, but you're going to just do your best. We'll have to correct the curtains. Stay on that straight line. Now, Command Z will be your best friend. Use the undo button if you need to work backwards or change anything. A little bit of blur is expected. What I'm going to be looking at is saying, okay, did you use other layers to create your edits? I want to know that you used a non-destructive editing technique. Did you use other tools to try to improve on the picture? It does not need to be perfect. If you'll notice, this cat here has a missing eye as well. Let me show you how to correct that. So if you highlight this eye, hold down Alt to kind of subtract the area if it highlights too much. We're going to go in here. There we go. You want to make sure it's all selected. Just like that. Okay, I'll copy it and I'll paste it into a new layer. I'll bring it over. So now this sweet little cat has two eyes. Now with the eyes, for the cat eye, we need to flip it. So we're going to take, because it's obviously the left eye, we need to make it look like it's the right eye. So what I'm going to do is, with this layer selected with my eye, I'm going to go to Edit at the top here, go to Transform, Reflect Horizontal. So let's see. Flip horizontal, sorry. And it flips the eye automatically. So now I can kind of paste it where I want it to go, kind of line it up. Hit save, and now I can go in with the clone tool, kind of paint around it so it doesn't look like it's a complete cut. There we go. And I can kind of clean the cat up a little bit along the way. So as you can see, not all the spots are going to disappear, but I am fixing a lot of things by going in and kind of touching it up. You can also, once you have it all corrected and all fixed, kind of going in here. Now the cat fur is going to be very forgiving because it's dark and you don't have to be totally accurate. But what I was going to say is, once you have this cat all set and ready, you could go to Mode, go to Adjustments and Brightness and Contrast. By adjusting the contrast, though, you can kind of darken and already kind of clear up some of those spots. You see how some of them cleared up? By brightening it, you can see a lot of imperfections. But if I darken it with my contrast, it already kind of makes spots disappear. I don't want to darken it too much, but it's already kind of correcting that. So that's kind of a neat little trick to save you some time as well. And then you can go in with your clone tool and kind of clean everything up that way. All right. Are there any questions about this photo? Kind of follow the lines of the curtains as best you can. That'll help give it a more natural look. And just go over small areas at a time with the editing, so that if you try to do large portions and large chunks, it won't look as nice. So we want to make sure we kind of improve on it that way. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a 10-minute break. I'm going to give you a chance to kind of play around with your assignment. I'll come back. If you would like to share your screen and demonstrate something you've done using a non-destructive editing technique, that would be great. And just kind of show me what you're working on, which pictures you chose. Maybe if you don't have to have done anything, but maybe just a good starting point is which two pictures are you going to pick, and then you can have them pulled up, and then maybe talk about what editing it might need to be done on that photo. When we come back, we will kind of edit the other two, talk about the assessment a little bit, and then we'll send you on your way, and then we'll be done for tonight. So are there any questions before we go to break? All right, well, if there are no questions, we'll go ahead and switch gears here. We'll see you guys in 10 minutes. Okay, so how's it going, everybody? Do any of you want to share your screen and kind of show me what pictures you're going to edit? Sounds good, Amanda. Okay, I'll close out my Photoshop. You can share your screen and then go ahead and unmute your mic if you're able to, and then you can kind of tell me what photos you chose and what you're going to do to retouch them.
Well, I only started on one. I started on the girl.
Perfect.
I used the, so far I've used the spot healing brush tool and the healing brush.
Perfect.
And I've just gone around and cleared that up. Got rid of some of the extra.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can already tell there's a huge difference based off of just what you've done there. So that looks great. And then you're doing it on your other layer. So see how she created a new layer to make all her edits? That was really good. Good job. So yeah, she already looks 100 times better just based off of the spot healing brush alone. So great work. Good job. All right. Anybody else want to share? You don't have to, but it's just a fun opportunity. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you just want to show the pictures that you're going to edit, that's okay too. So you don't have to have done any work. Yeah, great. Okay, so I'll close out. Do you know how to do that, Catherine? Just click the share screen icon if you see it. It's got two screens. There you go. Nailed it. Oh, wow. Yeah, you can already tell a huge difference in that photo. So what I'm going to do is unmute your mic, Catherine. So if you want to.
Okay, can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Okay. Forgive me if my kids are loud.
Oh, no, you're fine. We get it.
Okay. I did, what did I do? The color balance.
Perfect.
And I was trying to find the spot healing brush, but I can't find it on mine because it looks different than yours.
Yes. So do you see that little patch
Right here?
tool? If you hold it down, it's in there.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it can hide. If it's not your default tool, you'll have to kind of look for it, but very good. Yep. So already she's added different layers. So she's not working on her original layer. That's really important to note. And then she made adjustments to the color adjustments. Yep. So as you can already see, huge difference. Took out all that yellow, all the warm tones. And now she's going to go in with her spot healing brush and kind of touch him up a little bit. But this particular picture needs a color adjustment major time or big, like majorly. So this one looks really good already. So great job.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, ladies. Is there anybody else that would like to share? If not, we'll go ahead and move forward. Just make sure everybody's muted. There we go. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we've already kind of gotten a head start into how to add this eye, how to clean up the background, fix the curtains a little bit. You'll have to touch up behind the little cat. Try to get rid of the spots. Remember that little trick I showed you? Just by adjusting the contrast of the picture, it darkened the areas that were already dark, and so it kind of got rid of some of the spots that you see, some of the weathering on the image. So it kind of did the job for you a little bit. All you have to do is go in with the clone tool. I don't believe the spot healing tool is going to work very well with this image because it's very spotty and weathered all over. So it's only going to be grabbing more areas with spots. So do you see what I mean? So the clone tool is probably your best bet. Just grab little tiny patches at a time. Don't do big chunks and try to color all over. Pay attention to that little cross that you see. So if I were to take, if I were to hold down my Alt button, try to copy this side and go over to the left, As I'm coloring, that cross is moving with my cursor. You know, I can see I'm moving it up and down. So just make sure that when you start getting into an area that you don't want to copy, like the ear, I don't want the ear on his head. I need to go grab a different area. So click Alt, and then you'll just go in and start painting a different side. Okay, so just pay attention to that little cross that will indicate the area that's being copied so that you know where it's grabbing from. But the clone tool allows you to control the area that it's sampling from, whereas the healing brush tool kind of just does a general sampling. So yeah, good question. So if it's on a Mac, it's Option plus you click, and then but it's also Alt Option, Alt if you're on a Mac, Option if you're on a, I'm sorry, Alt if you're on a PC, Option if you're on a Mac. And let's see, that's all I think that you'll need to know for this one. And here we are on the children. So again, this one kind of takes all the problems that you have with all the other photos and puts it into one, basically. And this photo obviously has a tear on it and water spots and everything else. It even needs some color adjustment. So the first thing that I do is duplicate my layer, and then all the changes will be done on my layer copy, okay? So layer copy. And I'm going to go in first things first, and I'm going to take the spots out. What tool would you use to take the spots out? You could use the clone tool. So let's grab that clone tool. You could hold down Option just right next to it, or Alt, and kind of click and try to see if it will clean up anything like that. Clone tool works. And also you could use your spot healing tool. So you can grab your spot healing tool and just kind of, I prefer the spot healing tool. It eliminates extra clicks. If with the clone tool, you have to click an area to sample and then go clean it up, click an area to sample, clean it up. This way, using the spot healing tool on these little water spots automatically just samples the area around it and really does the job. So I'm just kind of cleaning up here. It really does work well. So just in a controlled way, I'm going to go in and kind of highlight these spots as best I can. Even in his hair, it's going to get a little tricky because it's going to be grabbing odd samples of things. You can fix that later, but for the most part, I'm just going to kind of go in. I might have to clean that one up. His collar won't clean up nicely, but with the trees, I can easily go in, and even on the house. So you can see already it's faster to use the spot healing over the clone tool, but the clone tool does the job. So it's not really a right or wrong. It's just in terms of speed, which one would you use? And so I think I'd prefer the spot healing tool. Yeah, so this one, I would definitely use the spot healing tool. This picture is a little bit more challenging in the fact that this little rip here is going to give you some, it won't look perfect. So just kind of be patient with yourself. But I'm just going to do as much cleaning up as I can on the edges, but it doesn't appear like it's going to want to heal all the way. So I'm going to have to go do a little bit more surgery on this. But once the spots are clean, I'm going to go into the image, go to my adjustments and my color balance, and I'm going to take out some of that yellow, and I'm going to bring in some more cool colors like green and blue. And I'm going to go to my highlights and do the same thing so I can kind of make this photo feel a little bit brighter. You don't want to be too crazy with one color or the other because it's very sensitive. And I'll go in and adjust the shadows a little bit. Yes, the content aware tool will definitely fix that, and we'll get to that in just a minute. So I'm adjusting the colors on here. I can even go to my adjustments, brightness and contrast. I can brighten the photo. I can even add some contrast to it. Now, I do recommend doing the brightness and contrast and all of the coloring after you've done your spot healing brush tool, and that way you can be more aware of any other spots that need to be fixed or tightened. You have to go in on his shirt and get those little things. So let's talk about the big rip. So Amanda mentioned the content aware tool. That's another tool we can use. That tool is very helpful. And I think it's a little harder to navigate because it's kind of sampling randomly, but it does work, so you can try to use it. What I would recommend is go to let's pull our toolbar up, and let me move my layers around just so that we can see what's going on. Let me close out. 1 second. Sorry. There it is. Okay. All right. Can you guys see it? So it's under your healing brush section. You'll go to your content aware move tool, and you'll see your arrow changes a little bit. So the idea here behind the content aware tool is to make a selection of something you want to copy. So in this case, if I wanted to copy this area, I could click and then drag it over to this area. So it would just basically paste sampling of an area over the area. You hit enter to keep it if you want to keep it. You can also do another copy and duplicate if you wanted to, just like that. You could hit enter. You could deselect by hitting Command D. Oops, it's going to make me save it. There we go. All right, so already it looks a lot better. Command D will deselect if you're on a Mac, and then you can go in with your clone tool and just kind of, touch it up a little bit. It'll take some playing around with for sure, but you definitely want to kind of go in. Try your best to clean up those edges. You don't want it to look like direct copies from any one particular area, so you'll kind of have to grab from other angles and kind of see if you can clean up that patchwork there. And go in. You can even go grab some more sections of it to kind of fill it in. But by doing that, that kind of helps you clean up spots that are unwanted, like those big chunks. And then you kind of have to go in and clean the edges. You can use I'm using the clone tool to grab parts of this house. You can go in and grab parts of this tree. I'm going to color in up here so it doesn't look like it's a mirror image, kind of color in areas. So you definitely have to get in and kind of play around with it, but it is possible. And the content aware tool, as you saw, kind of made your job a little bit faster than if you were to just straight up use the clone tool. I'm just going to go in here and kind of clean up some of the leaves as best I can. You can even copy parts of this roof like that and kind of extend it. Just make sure. And also what's cool is if you look at this tool and hold down the Alt button or Option button, when you move, it takes a mirror image, or it takes a picture, a snapshot of where your picture is, so you can see where your lines are. Yeah, this is meant to help make it easier. So just look, when you hold down your option button on the clone tool, it takes a snapshot of the image that you're going to be copying. So just make sure when you line it up, everything's lined up correctly, like the lines. You don't want any bow in the line. So I'm going to come over here and see if I can line things up. Click and hold, kind of drag across until the line disappears. Okay, I'm going to grab another section of that. Line it up. So I'm trying to extend the roof a little bit. And then I can go in here and clean it up. So I'm trying to get it to look like it's, it's going across. I probably won't go all the way across, but you get the idea. Clean up this area. So again, let's use the content aware tool. Perhaps we could click on it and then select this whole section like this, and then I can drag it over. I can save it, hit apply, hit enter, and then I can deselect, Command D. So already I'm kind of patching it up. I'll use the clone tool, and I'll kind of go in and clean up some of these branches. I like some of them hanging over. I just don't want it to look like a total mirror image picture. I'll have to drop down the size as I get closer so I can clean up the edges a little bit. Just remember to go slow and go around the edges as straight as possible. Just like that. You'd never know that there was a rip there. So yes, and save often, definitely, because you don't want to lose this work, right? Go in here. So the clone tool does take a little bit of practice. There's a slight learning curve with it. If you've used it before, maybe it'll be, maybe it's easy to use. I know when I first started, it was a little frustrating because I couldn't understand where it was grabbing from. It wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. But I think with a little bit of practice, you'll get it in no time. So I'm just going to go in here and fill in the tree leaves a little bit more. I'm kind of going in a circular motion because I want to fill it in. Anyways, so you guys get the idea. Maybe I'll keep it white going across. I'm just going to kind of go around here at the bushes. That'll be good for now. Obviously, you could spend hours just fine-tuning this, but I wanted to make sure that you understood how I was getting the look, the effect, kind of going in here. But all right, so there's that. We've adjusted the color. We've taken care of water spots. We're healing this area where there was that big rip. And then I'm going to go into, just kind of zoom in and kind of make sure nothing else needs to be touched up. But I'm going to use my spot healing brush for this part. I'm just going to kind of get rid of little objects that I don't want around. This spot healing brush is kind of fun to play with because you just start clicking everywhere and trying to heal areas. I'm going to go into the hair. Look at the skin, see if there's anything we need to correct. So if you see any spots, you kind of want to go in there with that healing brush tool and just kind of get it all cleaned up. That's the idea. Look at his skin. The dog's shirt looks good. This collar's a little tricky, so I'm going to have to take, again, I can do the content aware. I can kind of drag this section. I can drag it up and then hit save and enter, and then deselect, and it kind of already fills that in for me. So now I can go in with the clone tool and kind of just touch it up a little bit. Or I can go back into the spot healing brush tool. It will heal it for me. And don't forget to adjust the size of your brush if it's grabbing too much information. There we go. And kind of touch up his hair a little bit. Again, you can use that content aware. Oop. I'm just going to grab this section here with the strands of his hair going in the same direction and try to pull it down. But you notice that the color does not match. That probably is not going to work. So we won't apply that. Let's see if we can fix it another way. I'll grab this clone tool and kind of go in here. Oop, deselect. And try to go with the grain of his hair. If it starts looking odd, we'll have to back up a little bit. But again, you could spend lots of time, trying to edit and clean things up, but I just want you to get used to and familiar with the tools as much as possible. There's no real right or wrong answer. The thing with Photoshop is there's multiple ways you can achieve the same look. So it just really depends on the tools that you feel comfortable with, the tools you want to try. All right, so we'll zoom out. So that already looks 100% better. If I were to spend more time on this, I would probably try to fix this tree branch so it didn't look so cut off. I want it to look a little bit more natural. So whatever that means, maybe you add more leaves down here or you continue the roof and get rid of it altogether. And then you can fix whatever coloring you want. We'll learn in our assessment how to adjust coloring, but what you can do is if you want a particular object to look different color, you can highlight it, so use one of your selection tools. You can grab a section. So say you wanted to correct the color of the hair or the eyes, just like we did in the other picture. Make sure your selection is cleaner than mine. This is a quick and dirty. But you can go in and you can adjust same way the color balance or the hue and saturation based off of, see, like that. You can just go in. You can do individual things just like that. So you can kind of lighten up individual objects if you want. You can change colors of objects altogether. So I'll leave it up to you to go and make those further adjustments. But are there any questions on this picture? What you'll need to know? I think we went over all 4 of them. Let's see. We did the cat, we did the guy, and the girl. So have fun with this editing because this is a fun project. It's cool to see the before and afters. I'm a big before and after person. So when I see the before picture and then I see what I've done afterwards, it does look 100% different. So remember to take your screenshots displaying your layers so that I can see. And in your assignment, there's a link that explains how to do the screenshot. So just make sure you check that out. Take your screenshot, and then that way I can see that you've done your work on different layers, that your original layer has been preserved. All right, so we're going to shift gears a little bit. If you haven't already downloaded Assessment 2's picture, please go ahead and do that. We're going to play around with it a little bit. We're going to go to this original layer. Okay, so I'll give you a second to pull it down. Just give me a smiley face when you've done so. That way I know that you're ready to go. Okay, Amanda's ready. And Catherine, perfect. All right, ladies, so here we go. We are going to be working side by side. So basically, we're going to be playing around with the hue and saturation again. we're going to play with what's called solid color adjustment. And the solid color adjustment layer, when used in conjunction with a selection, can create a really cool blending mode. And it's a way that we use to colorize parts of an image. So a designer would normally use this tool if you want to overlay a solid color on your design. And if you read ahead in the prompt, you're going to be changing this picture to black and white. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new layer. So I've got a new layer here. I'm going to move it down. There we go. Let's just do duplicate layer. There we go. All right, so I've got my layer copy. And what I'm going to do, the assignment asks us to apply a black and white adjustment layer to the image. So what that means is we're going to go, and it's going to look like this basically when we're done. So we'll go to the adjustments. So with the copy selected, you're going to go to Image, Adjustments, and look for black and white. It's right here. See that? So go to Image, Adjustments, black and white. Now we'll automatically change it to black and white. And that's all you need to do. You don't need to take any further steps. So you hit OK. If you wanted to play with the highlighting a little bit or the contrasting, you can adjust the reds and yellows, but that's not needed. So you can just hit OK. And now you have your black and white copy. So I'll stop there. See if you can follow along. Are you going to be following along? Or would you like me to just go through the tutorial? Okay, so I'm going to stop there just so you can catch up. So again, just to backtrack for those who are watching, it's just 2 steps. So you copy your layer. With your copied layer selected, go to Image, Adjustments, and click on black and white. So you should be right here where we are. So applying the black and white adjustment layer to this image is what we're trying to do. Then we're going to properly select the headscarf. So we're going to grab any one of our selection tools. I like using the quick selection tool just because it is quick and I can just kind of trace along. So I'm going to kind of grab the entire area of this headscarf. Now be careful because it is so detailed, it will look like it's selected, but small areas of the scarf will not be. So you want to make sure you go over the area as best you can. Use your Option button or your Alt button when you click to subtract areas if you've gone too far. And I'm going to actually increase the brush size of my selection tool here. I'm going to click, kind of drag around until it snaps to the edges of the scarf. You want to get a clean selection because we're going to be colorizing it. We want it to look as natural, well, I should say not natural, but as clean as possible. You don't have to start a new layer to do this part. You do need a new layer before you change the black and white portion. So you can do all this on the same black and white layer. That's a very good question. It doesn't specify in the instructions, so I just automatically use this layer. As long as there's a copied layer, that's what I'm going to be looking for, making sure all the changes were done on a different layer and not your original. That'll be a big part of your grade too. Okay, so this is a rough selection, so this will just give you an idea. But now with it selected, we're going to colorize the headscarf using this solid color on the color blending mode. So here are all your different blending modes you can choose, but there's one here at the bottom, color. You can click on color. I'm going to keep it normal though, because I believe what they want you to do is go to Image Adjustments. Down here, click on, let's see, Color Balance. and you can give it a color. So you can kind of determine what color you want your headscarf to be. Kind of play around. And you can see when I'm making changes that I didn't go in and fully select that headscarf. So I'm going to go fix that real quick. So choose a color for your headscarf. So adjustments, and you can go to color. All right, so I'm going to give her a magenta headscarf. So I'm going to wait and let you catch up till you're at this point. Now, if you'd like to share your screen, feel free to let me know, and so I can see that you've already made it to this point. If you'd like to share what you've done. So we feeling good so far? Did I lose you guys? That's okay. So with the scarf selected, you go to Image, Adjustments, and then I went to Color Balance. And under the color balance, you can move the sliders one way or the other, and it will give you a different color scarf. So Image, Adjustments, Color Balance. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move forward. Now, once you've made this selection, you're going to create a black and white vignette using the gradient adjustment layer. So it's going to kind of look like this when you're done. And the way that you do that is you're going to right click. You're going to click on, oh, whoops, let's go to effects. So click on effects down here at the bottom of your layers panel and click on gradient. Actually, there's two ways you can do it, but let's go to adjustments and let's see if gradient is in this one. Yep, gradient map, perfect. Oh, make sure that your scarf is deselected first. That would help. All right, so you've got your layer copy where you've colorized your scarf. You're going to go to Image, Adjustments, Gradient Map. And you can choose from a gradient if you want. Actually, this isn't the right gradient. Sorry, guys. There's lots of different gradients you can add. There we go. Okay. With the copy selected, you're going to go to gradient, click on this adjustment here. It kind of looks like a circle, half black, half white at the bottom of your layers panel. Do you see that right here? If you click that and click on gradient, that will give us what we're looking for. There we go. Sorry, there's lots of gradient options in Photoshop. So this is the gradient fill that we're looking for. So you can add a vignette. You can pick a direction, like an angle. You can do radial, reflected, or even diamond. I'm going to go linear here. You can also click on the angle. So which direction do you want the vignette to appear? If I did radial, I would want to reverse it so that the she's in focus and not blurred. And I can adjust the vignette a little bit. So I'm going to kind of darken or lower. There we go. All right, so I've got a slight vignette on her, just like that. And I'll hit OK. I think that's all they want you to do for this one, but they want you to select the gradient layer and click on multiply on the blending mode. All right, so have I lost you guys? There were a few steps there. Do you want me to back up and try it again? Yeah, okay, sorry, I confused myself too because they were asking for a gradient and I wasn't sure what they were talking about. Okay, so we're back at the point where we've already colorized our scarf, we've deselected from it, we are on our black and white layer. What we need to do is go down to the layers panel and there's a button that says create new fill or adjustment layer. Do you see that? So with our black and white layer selected, we're going to click on create new fill adjustment layer. Look for gradient, it's the second from the top. When you select that, it will automatically give a gradient fill to it, okay? And what we want to do is adjust the vignette. So I'm going to use a radial. And right now the radius of the gradient is right on her face. So I'm going to click on reverse. And you can adjust how dark you want the outside of your vignette to be, but I'm going to up the scale a little bit. I'm going to go up so that it's just a subtle vignette. It's not too dark because I still want to see her and her scarf. That's all you do. You hit OK. Once you've adjusted it to your liking, you can hit OK. Does that make sense? Okay, so once you have applied your gradient fill, you go up top to your blending mode and click on multiply. Okay. So now you can apply the photo filter adjustment layer. So again, you could go back to the layer, the black and white layer, click on your adjustment layer and go to photo filter. So same place we found the gradient. Now this will allow us to add color or warmth to it. So almost like a sepia, it can allow you to give that color. You can also adjust the color. So if you wanted to pick a completely different color, it will give you those cool and warm tones. So you see how she's really blue, or it can go in there to match her scarf. It kind of will change her a little bit. You can adjust how intense that color is. So you're basically giving it a photo filter, some warming, and there's lots of different, options under here. But I really, you can just pick one. You can adjust the color, double click on the swatch, and kind of play around with it and see what looks good to you. And then that is it. That's it on this assignment. That's all you have to do. So they do want to see that you can apply an adjustment layer, a black and white adjustment layer. Select the scarf, give it a color using the color blending mode, make a black and white vignette, and then apply a photo filter. When you have done these things, I want you to expand your layers panel so that we can see all these steps. You're going to take a screenshot of your Photoshop workspace for your first image with all the layers visible so that I can see you applied them just like I did. And I'm going to be looking for, is this original layer preserved? Okay. So are there any questions about this? No problem. Okay, so Amanda, I will probably have you share your screen and I'll have you drive. So I'll unmute your mic so we can talk. Go ahead and click share screen. Perfect. So it looks like you colorized this scarf. So where did you lose me?
Coloring the black and white, changing that color.
Oh, the photo filter?
Yeah.
Okay, so then with the, so you have a layer, what's that layer for?
I clicked the photo, this vector mask.
Oh, you created a vector mask. Okay, so you're so close. It was the one right next to it. So yeah, just delete that. Right next to it on the right, if you hover over it, it'll say add new fill or adjustment layer or create new fill. There we go. Click that one. And then you just need to do a photo filter. So there's one in there that says photo filter right there. And this is where you get to choose the warmth of the image. So you can double click on the color swatch. Do you see that color swatch right there? You're on the swatches panel, but they're in the photo filter panel.
Okay.
Yeah, if you click that, double click it. And then you can choose from the color picker what tone you want. And then adjust the density, meaning how dark, how light, how intense do you want the color? And then you can kind of play around with what would look best to match your photo. But yeah, good job following along. There were a lot of steps in that one. Great job. So does everyone see how she's double clicking on the swatch color, and then you can adjust your color from the color picker that pops up. And then, yep, once you're done, you'll open up your layers panel so that I can see each and every layer. So you're going to want to open it up and drag it out long. Then take your screenshot because I need to see each step. But yes, you did that right, and that looks fantastic. Great job, Amanda.
Thank you.
Okay, see, you follow along, you can get it done really quick. Are there any questions though? Because there were a lot of steps. If you're wondering where those steps came from, it's on the assessment too. So you don't have to worry about writing them all down. It's there for you. I just wanted to show you where to find those tools because sometimes we're not sure where things are. But what's neat is the adjustments are all under here. So your black and white, your gradient, change it to solid color. So even here on my scarf, see if it's thinking right now. See if it'll catch up. I go to solid color, and here's where I can adjust it, hit OK, change it to multiply, and it would color my scarf. So I could even go in, could do multiple colors if I wanted to. So go in here, try to get as close to the edge as possible, and then go to, you could do another color fill if I wanted to make it kind of a rainbow effect. But just click on solid color. It's on multiply. And change a different color. There we go. There we go. Hit OK, change it to multiply. So you kind of get the idea. I don't have to do it so dramatic. Can even kind of lighten it up. But this is a neat way to kind of add a pop of color to your headscarf. So there's different ways to get the same effect. I showed you a different way. You can also use the adjustments layers in here, but all the tools you'll need are in the adjustments layer in the drop-down menu. So you should be good there. All right, don't forget to take a screenshot. Open up your layers panel wide until you can see all of your layers. Take a screenshot, save that, save your PSD file, and make sure you save a JPEG. So we're just going to be uploading JPEGs for the final submission, okay? But I want to make sure you maintain the original picture and you have a Photoshop file, you can go back and make changes to, so you don't have to duplicate your work if you want to do a resubmission. That's all we have for today. So if there are any questions, you're welcome to stay after, or if you want, just come in tomorrow for the multi-session. I did want to share real quick, if you, let me see, it might have clicked out on. Give me a second. Let me pull up my PowerPoints. There we go. All right, so want to make sure I've got all the mics off. Okay, perfect. Okay, so just assignment basics. These are things that we went over today. You can combine an adjustment layer with a blending layer. We just did that. And that's all there is. There are a few videos I'll post under the announcements if you'd like to see some quick tutorials on how to do touch-ups, but I think you guys have it down. You guys are pretty good. If stuff is not working, make sure you're on the right layer. Make sure that you've sampled everything and use the right tool. I mean, I know that's silly to say, but sometimes we think we're using the healing brush, but we're really using the spot healing brush, or we think we're using the clone tool, but we're using it. So just make sure you're on the right tool, and then use plus or minus to select or deselect an area. And then your mode. Make sure you're in normal. Are you on a blending mode? Is it giving you a different effect? You can also adjust your opacity too to get stuff to work. So like I said, if there are any questions, you can come tomorrow. Thank you for sticking with me. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving if I don't talk to you tomorrow. And don't forget to post and do your daily discussion even on Thursday, okay? Don't miss that daily checkpoint, and stay active in the discussion if you can, before and after, so that we can get as many points as possible. Thanks for coming today. If there's any questions, you're welcome to ask. I'll turn it over to you. You can give me a smiley face and say goodbye, or you're welcome to ask any questions. The slide, don't worry about that slide. It was outdated. We've had to since change our multi-sessions to Wednesday, so disregard that. Same time, same bat channel. Yep, Thursday is a day off. It's a holiday. Have some fun. Yes, Amanda, you're welcome to stay after. No problem. All right, well, we'll go ahead and stop the recording.